Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
The only person that's scared of me is Canelo, and I can say that for a fact. To be honest with you, nobody wanted to see him fight Crawford. No disrespect to Crawford, but people wanted to see him fight Bivol again. People wanted to see him fight me. You know what I mean? So if he's not going to retire, then what fights is he going to get? You know what I mean? What fights are there left for him at 168? Munguia and Billy, Pacheco. You know what I mean? Like, there's no fights for him. You know what I mean? So if he comes back, he has to fight one of us. He has to fight either Better Bivol or me. You know what I mean? So, but that's how I feel about that situation.
That David Benavidez is still talking about a Canelo Alvarez fight in any capacity accents his obsession with that fighter since they're no longer at the same weight. Canelo doesn't possess any title for David to fight for. He's the one with the title now. He's the one at a new weight. Coincidentally, he's the one that won't let go, constantly addressing the same subject. You might argue that he's only answering the questions the media is asking, but he could shut it down at any moment. Like what I saw a few weeks ago from Shakur Stevenson, who shut down the same old questions about the same old fight with Gervonta Davis that he feels ain't gonna happen. Didn't Team Benavidez say that they had moved on from the Canelo Alvarez fight and that they don't need him anymore? So why do they keep talking about him? Well, because the media keeps asking. And even if they do, you could tell them that ship has sailed and it ain't gonna happen. Instead, David is still making the case for that fight. Say David is right, and Canelo Alvarez is shaking in his boots and he's scared. He's just as afraid as David is making him out to be. That's all the more reason for you to move on. If he's that fucking scared, what are you wasting your time on him for? He's coming right off the loss to Terence Crawford. David asks, what else is there for Canelo to do at 168? Who else is left there for him to fight? You don't gotta worry about that. Fucking cares who's left at 168 when you're at 175. You're still trying to put pressure on that guy? And did you look at the physical condition of David Benavidez in that video? Eyes sunken in, pronounced cheekbones. He looks a little lethargic. It was reported a few weeks ago that he would not have his strength and conditioning coach, Memo Heredia, in camp with him for this Anthony Yarde fight. And he looks worse for wear. I mean, he looks shop-worn. Look at the state of him. I question how much longer David Benavidez will be able to make the light heavyweight limit if he does end up making it later on this week. He seems a man on borrowed time who just 2 to 3 fights into his light heavyweight campaign, he may have already outgrown light heavyweight. We know he walks around at 200 plus in between fights. He has to cut a lot of weight to get down to 175 that you don't need to worry about Canelo and what Canelo Alvarez is doing. Need to worry about that scale.
You know, everybody knows Canelo's done. You know, we've seen how Terence Crawford beat him so easy. The guy has done so much with the sport of boxing, but the body doesn't want to go no more. So David would send him to the hospital, to be honest with you. You know, he has to be careful who he fights in. I think they just did the rematch again with Terence Crawford. I still like that fight. You know, Terence Crawford's a little guy, you know, and I don't think Terence Crawford can really hurt him, you know, but he's going to get hit and he's going to get beat again, in my opinion.
That is Jose Benavidez, the father of David Benavidez, who likes talking about Canelo just as much as his son, saying that he's finished and he's done and he's washed. David would kill him, he'd slaughter him, he'd suck his dick. I mean, he's already down there. They can't shut the fuck up about the guy, right? Right. The real nugget in Jose Benavidez's candor is that he heard the second fight with Terence Crawford is made, and that is what's next for Canelo Alvarez. I've no desire to see a second fight between them. That was a pretty decisive win for Terence Crawford.
He's asking for a rematch.
At the same time, think about the messenger. Can we trust this intel from Jose Benavidez? Is he a trustworthy source? That's what he heard. Do we believe him? I don't know that we can, still making promises about a fight that in all likelihood is not going to happen, even if you believe them, that David would put Canelo in the hospital. What the hell is it worth when it ain't gonna happen? The writing is on the wall. It seems like the biggest part of promoting David Benavidez is talking about Canelo, because without that, he sort of just fades into the background. Consider that the most talked about fight of this weekend's fights isn't even David's fight, but he's the main event. The most talked about fight is actually Haney versus Norman. It sort of stole the thunder from David's fight. Most of the chatter around this weekend's action is not centered around David and Anthony, who are in the main event. It's centered around Devin and Brian, because without Canelo Alvarez, David's just not that interesting to people. The biggest part of promoting a David Benavidez fight ain't even who David Benavidez is fighting. It's not even David. It's Canelo!
Mama huevo.
Shades of Aaron Pryor.
What?
Aaron the Hawk Pryor, famously known for beating Alexis Arguello in what were their two fights, but more famously known for a fight that he didn't have with Sugar Ray Leonard?
Huh?
David reminds me of Aaron Pryor, and how, when it's all said and done, Aaron is more remembered for a fight that didn't happen than the fights that did.
David reminds me of him.
Because when you're talking about Aaron Pryor, you're primarily talking about one of two things. You're either talking about the two fights with Alexis Arguello that were at Alexis's fourth weight,
It's the crown jewel of Aaron's resume.
or you're talking about the Sugar Ray Leonard fight. The Sugar Ray Leonard fight that he didn't have, that didn't happen as a result of Sugar's eye injury that prevented the Aaron Pryor fight from happening.
The injury that Leonard retired on for something like 3 years that prevented the Pryor fight from happening.
Well, up until Leonard came back. Came back 3 years after that in the Harvin Magler fight.
At a higher weight.
Suddenly all that stuff about Aaron Pryor and fighting him wasn't all that important anymore. But when you talk about Aaron Pryor, that's what you're primarily talking about. Where it reminds me of David is like Aaron Pryor without the Arguello fight, without that crowned jewel. To where it seems like the biggest focus on David in his career is centered around a fight that didn't happen, isn't likely to happen, and what is he really doing to fill the void, but focusing on that fight.
I remember watching a biopic and seeing Aaron Pryor himself say that when he found out he wasn't going to have the Leonard fight,
He was on the road.
he pulled over to the shoulder and started crying in the car. You wonder that David isn't crying in the bathtub or crying at the buffet.
Crying to his pusher when he goes to purchase some booger sugar for a bump. About the Canelo fight, there are other fights there that would allow him to carve out his own lane and make his own legacy, but I think in the end, his resume might end up looking like Aaron Pryor's, minus the Arguello win. I believe it was Albert Einstein who defined insanity as doing the exact same thing, but expecting a different outcome. Now tell me that David...
Tell me he's not doing the exact same thing he's been doing for years now. What is he expecting to be different?
has lost his mind.
Quick video for Mr. Jake Paul saying that we're running away from him. We're not, mate. We're not running from you. You know, we offered to box you right next door to you, Canada. Canada. Anywhere in Canada, because we can't get to America, and you knew we couldn't get there. Offering 15 million. Stand on to your offer for 15 million. We'll box you anywhere in the world, but I know it ain't going to happen because you're not a stand-on man, are you? Because we've had this way before. Did we or not bet you $3 million on national TV in front of the world's media? And what did you do? You welched. You didn't pay. You give us a middle finger. Like your other mate, KSI, he bet me £200,000 in front of the world's media. He never paid. So really, Jake, we can't take your word for nothing, can we? Because what you do, you tread where the grass is low, my old pal, saying that you may have offered $15 million, but you knew full well we can't get into the United States of America. And we did offer to box you next door in Canada. Phone went quiet by you and your manager. But listen, mate, what you say I take with a pinch of salt, my friend, because I told you, put it all in writing, send it to our lawyer. Within 10 weeks, we can be there in the ring with you, anywhere in the world except America. But like I say, you say things you don't stand on, do you? 3 million quid? You know, we said, okay, we'll bet. Deal done. Shook hands with me in front of the world's media. You didn't pay, mate. So you offering this and offering that don't mean squat diddly, does it? You or your other mate. In my word, mate, I tell you the truth, mate. Back in the old days, my pal, you'd be called odd pig to a devil, a Welsher, not a man. Can't take your word for no, which you can't anyway. But that's all I'm going to say on it. You want to fight, put your $15 million in writing to our legal team. You can be in the ring with 8 weeks anywhere in the world. That's all I'm going to say to you, mate, except America. You got that loud and clear? But it has to be in writing from people like you because your word's no good. Good luck what you're doing anyway. Good luck, mate.
Call me crazy, but I don't think anybody's losing sleep that we're not getting a Tommy Fury rematch when we stand to get an Anthony Joshua fight instead, a fight that many would describe as being a lot more dangerous than a Tommy Fury rematch. And Tommy won the first one. He got away with the win. So why does it seem like Tommy's the one begging for a second?
It's because Jake is saying they offered Tommy the rematch at $15 million, though he turned it down. John, Tommy's father, is saying, no.
It's not that they turned it down, it's that the fight was supposed to be in America and Tommy can't enter into America.
Why can't he enter into America?
Don't you remember 2 or 3 years ago when the United States government prevented certain associates of Big Danny K, Daniel Kinahan, from entering into the United States? Don't you remember that? Tommy was one among them. So he can't come here. He can't fight here.
That's what that is.
Well, let me tell you something. Where the fuck else are you supposed to do Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury? What? Jake Paul brings all the money, all the promotion to the table so that he can fight you in the UK, where you'd have home field advantage even though he'd be paying for everything? No, your suggestion is to do it next door. Do it in Canada. A Brit and an American.
In Canada.
What the fuck
Kind of suggestion is that? A desperate one. Because Tommy Fury was coattailing a lane that Jake Paul created, him and other influencers, to make money. By now it's established that Tommy Fury was never really a serious professional boxer. That's why it was so easy for him to put a serious boxing career on hold.
What serious boxing career?
You're right. That's why it was so easy for him to merge into the lane that Jake Paul and KSI created. He's already had fights with the both of them and beat the both of them. Tommy Fury is still an undefeated fighter, in case you don't know. And what's stopping him from resuming his serious boxing career?
Well, he sucks.
He fought Jake Paul and KSI 2 years ago in the same year, 2023. And what has he done since then? Sat out all of last year and fought some nobody this one. The reason for it, he knows he ain't no good. He's not gonna make it to the big time the conventional way, the conventional route. He wants to stay in the lane that Jake Paul and KSI created, except that they don't need him.
Even though he won, they're not the ones that need a rematch to make money. He does.
Said it 2 years ago. He's made millions on the influencer circuit to where he's not going to go back to boxing at the York Hall now against gatekeepers that might actually beat him for a few $100,000 at a time where he's already made millions.
And he wants to keep making more. He's gotten too used to eating caviar to crack open a can of tuna.
Tough titty bitch. In the last 2 years, you've been free to resume your boxing career devoid of influencer boxing, and the reason you can't is because you're not actually any good, and you were never a serious professional. Tommy Fury by himself may resemble something out of a Tommy Hilfiger ad, though oddly enough, by himself, he doesn't get that much attention. Hell, the only reason people came to know him was because of who his brother is, Tyson Fury. Then after that, he became known because of the thing with Jake Paul, then KSI. Him by himself
Doesn't get that much attention.
begging for Jake Paul to fight him north of the border in Canada as if a rematch between them is bigger than what he just announced? Get a clue, fellas.
Maybe after Anthony knocks his block off, Jake will hit him up, set up the rematch, and use him as a rebound fight. Maybe.
Still pretty pathetic to see him begging like this. That is, see his father begging for him.
Begging for a rematch.
Over to Jake. Jake himself, and what is his promise to Anthony Joshua, he took to social media and said, "Lots of people are talking about my balls. The past 24 hours compared me to men these days. Yes, big balls. But men used to run at each other thousands deep with swords and shields, not knowing if they and their best friends would die that day. This is nothing. AJ is a man just as flawed as me,
A man.
and I will expose him."
Man!
You couldn't expose Tommy Fury 2 years ago, buddy. You're supposed to expose Anthony Joshua, a bigger and better fighter, more dangerous, 2 years later? Believe it or not, I think that Jake Paul has improved. In the subsequent 2 years that have followed his lone career defeat to Tommy Fury, he has actually gotten better, though not so much better that I would pick him to win a fight with Anthony Joshua. Let's not put the cart before the horse.
Win a fight? I wouldn't pick him to win a round.
Anthony Joshua must tread carefully now, as every minute and every second that passes that Jake Paul isn't lying unconscious on the canvas is a slap in the face for him, his legacy, and the sport of boxing. People are now hoping that Anthony Joshua will do to Jake Paul what they've been waiting for.
Stop him. Knock him out. Run him out of boxing.
As many critics as Anthony Joshua has, people still view him as a consummate professional who would not gamble his legacy in a circus fight with Jake, that if Anthony has signed on for anything, it's for a fight. A real fight. Like the Francis Ngannou fight was a real fight, this is a real fight. And Anthony's not coming to play with Jake Paul.
Jake has more time in than Francis Ngannou did. More years in the sport, he actually does. More fights and more rounds in the bank. When Francis Ngannou
Lost.
fought Anthony Joshua, going in, he'd done little more than lose to Tyson Fury. In what was a competitive fight, though, all the same. He went in with an 0-1 record. So in that way, this is actually a step up from that.
Oh, get the fuck out of here.
It is. In the world of boxing, Jake Paul is actually more experienced now than Francis Ngannou was then. Francis had little more than one professional boxing match. Just one. Whatever he did in the octagon did not carry over into the squared circle, whereas Jake and his endeavor into combat sports is centered around boxing.
Just boxing. Nothing else for the last 5 going on 6 years.
Boxing!
Anthony has about 5 weeks to prepare, quote unquote. 5 weeks for Jake Paul. Needless to say, he brings a lot more experience to the table than Jake, but he does need to focus. Don't give this kid an opportunity to embarrass you in any way.
Because he will try.
You need to look at him the way that you looked at Francis. You take him serious, like you would anyone else. It's a little bit hard to look at this fight and talk about it as such when so many people are of the opinion that this is rigged, that this is staged, that Jake Paul wouldn't sign his own death warrant. There's got to be a catch here, an NDA, some sort of backdoor agreement.
Sydney Sweeney.
Something. But you might be able to just chalk it all up to doing something strange for a little change. Like those guys on Jackass used to do. Johnny Knoxville allowed himself to be battered by Butterbean. Remember that?
Did something strange for a little change. Maybe that's what Jake Paul is doing for a lot more change than Johnny got. While he's playing Daredevil, don't forget the kind of money that Netflix is kicking out for this event. That if Jake Paul is gambling his health, it's for a whole heap of wealth.
Jake Paul is gambling his health. Anthony Joshua is gambling his legacy and seriousness as a pugilist. In what remains of his career, it is imperative that he not play with his food and kill him quick.
Like he did in Ngannou, do that.
Some people trust that he will. I hope that he does.